is the Chronorad Alert. Civil defense information will be broadcast at 6:40.
West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hello.
Y2K, how can we prepare?
Stop a few of their machines and radios, throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We are fighting for our lives. My family must survive.
Over 5 years, 1,000 gallons of gas, air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada. Streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Telegram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, share success. I am Toolman Tim, and today is January the 20th, 2023, and this is episode 239 of the Workshop Podcast. And tonight, I've got a wonderful guest with me. How are you, Mrs. Cook?
I'm good.
Good. We're going to have some fun with this one, aren't we? Trying something new.
Yes.
So tonight, for those out there that, I don't know, haven't been following or have been following, we have, there's the new show on HBO called The Last of Us, which is a post-apocalyptic video game originally, which...
Should I put a little thing in there about spoilers?
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, let's start right away. If you haven't seen the show, you probably shouldn't watch us tonight because we're going to spoil the hell out of it. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to chat about it. You guys, if you followed us, you know we're big into pop culture, and this is going to be kind of our Friday night thing for the next 9 weeks. We're going to talk about it. So as far as video games go, I've basically played 2 in our married life, I think.
Well, besides Mario.
Yeah, well, yes, but the first one I remember was it called Manhunt? Do you remember that one? Back when we were in Saskatchewan, like 2007.
Was it Manhunt or Manhunter?
It might have been Manhunter. You played a serial killer, right? Remember?
Yeah, but it was like a hitman.
Yeah, it was like Hitman. So, yeah.
Or was it called Hitman?
No, I played that one a little bit.
Okay.
Manhunter or Manhunter. I got to look it up now, but it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. And then didn't play another one for like almost 15 years. Then you buy me a PlayStation, and
well, you did play Hitman.
Yes, I did, on and off a little bit. And then you got me a PlayStation 4 a couple of years ago. We played Last of Us because it was a zombie thing. You sat there and watched me, and it was basically like watching a movie, wasn't it?
It was.
It was fun. Got my old fashioned this evening. So Byron's in. Good to have you. Said you'll have to spoil it for me. Only seen a few minutes so far. You know what? The cool thing is, I almost want to say it's unspoilable. Now, if you haven't played the video game, I mean, yeah, we're going to spoil the story a bit, but this is an experience, right?
It is. But like the show itself, if you've played the game, you're going to know what happens. So,
right. And it's, the game is 10 years old. It's a story as old as time. You know, there's nothing particularly new about the story itself. It's just the world and the characters that they build around it. So let's start. So this was episode 1. Where are we going to start? Well, okay. It opens up with a flashback to a news broadcast, kind of talk news program from the 1960s. And this is where they start talking about a fungus.
Which is funny because it's like 30 years before it actually takes place or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, or 40 years.
40 years, yeah, which is funny. They went back that far.
Because they didn't do that in the video game.
No.
But I thought it was pretty effective.
Although they might have, though, because we never really watched any of the extras on the video game.
No, that's true.
So they might have had it like maybe as a little blurb at the end.
That's true, yeah.
So,
but it was neat because what was really cool about it was kind of this retro way of explaining how a zombie virus kind of starts, right?
Well, there are theories on it.
Yes, the theories. And of course they have to they have to tie it into climate change just a little bit, don't they? Because he's like,
which I don't even think in the 60s that was an issue.
No. Well, it wasn't even, he was just like, well, if the climate ever really rapidly cooled, then the fungus could grow. And the crazy and insane thing about this fungus is it's actually based on a real thing. Not that it's possible at this point for humans to get infected with
never
it.
Say never.
No, I know. That's true. So maybe we'll all turn into, what are they, creakers or clickers?
I know, they kind of look like, they look like they had mushroom roots.
Yeah,
or,
spores.
Plant roots or whatever coming out of their mouths. Because
that's what they're kind of a mix between mushrooms and spores and everything. But yeah, so I thought the opening was really effective because it was this, you knew immediately. You see these people sitting around. Oh, the zombie virus is trying to get you here. I don't know what's going on with your camera. It's just
might be.
That's okay. We'll get it.
Everything's been flicking in the last couple of days.
I know.
So
It's been crazy. Ah, well, we'll let it go.
Yeah.
If she keeps flashing, guys, you can still hear her. You know,
Oh,
her
yeah.
pretty face is there. We can switch to one camera if we have to, too. So, but yeah, it was effective. It was a great way to introduce everybody to the story and the concept of this. And then, boom, just like that, it jumps 40 years in the future to 2003. Now, your camera just died. Okay, well.
Okay, is it dead or?
Yeah, I don't know what just happened. That is really strange. And now
It says the power's off.
yeah. Well, here
Where's
we
the
go.
power button.
There isn't one. Now,
Okay, that's really weird.
is it live or is it Memorex? So yeah, we can plug it back in one more time here and give it a shot. But just follow that.
We'll
Yeah,
just do the
you know what?
two
We'll do it
cameras.
this way.
We'll
Sorry,
just-
guys. We got a new camera coming. So Hunter says, I think the dog took my ball. It happens. I don't know. Yeah. So howdy, all. Good to have you over on Twitch. I love you holding down the fort over there. So despite some technical setbacks, we're going to move on. So yeah, it opens up in the 60s and it jumps ahead immediately. And you know how you know it jumps ahead? Because Dido's playing on the radio in the background, which
Yep.
is cool. And she has a JanSport backpack. You remember those JanSport?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Did you ever have one of those?
Yep, from Zellers.
Yeah. And for those fellow Canadians out there, Zellers
Is coming back.
is coming back.
We're getting
So-
one in Edmonton,
Yes, at the Kingsway Mall. Did you see that? Yeah. So
of all places. Although I never really liked Zellers. So.
yeah, it was cheap. You know.
Well, and it was always so
Target.
divey looking and dirty, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they've changed it or rebranded, but who knows?
Who knows? Yeah. So the opening, so there's Joel. So our main character at the beginning is Joel and his daughter Sarah and Joel's brother Tommy. And they run him and Tommy run basically a construction business together,
Kind of.
construction contractors. And you know right away that Joel is, he looks after his daughter. And you know it's sad because you know tragedy's coming. And that's what really, really sucks with this is that, here we are. You see their interactions. You see how much she loves him. She steals his watch out of his top drawer to take it downtown after school and decides to get it fixed for him. And that watch becomes a theme throughout the whole first episode. It's there. It's broken. She gets it fixed. And then in the end, he's wearing it. He's been wearing it for 20 years and it's broken again, right? And it sucks, but it's sad. So the opening, he was supposed to come home with, was it cake or pancake batter or something? And he's busy. And right away, they're like, okay, Joel loves his daughter. He's a hardworking son of a bitch. And he just wants to make sure the world is as good as he can for his daughter. And he loves his brother, right?
And they had no pancake mix.
Right. Because she wanted to make pancakes for his breakfast, right?
Yeah, because like that was one of the theories that we had, right?
What was the theory?
That it was like in the wheat or no, maybe that was Amy's and my theory, that it was in the breads or the wheats because they had no pancakes. He forgot to bring home the cake. So it was like a flour.
Oh, I did see. Yeah, okay. Right. Because somebody said, what's with all the baked good references in the episode?
Yeah. Because and then
the neighbors
cookies.
are making cookies and she ate a cookie, but Joel didn't eat a cookie, did he?
The daughter didn't.
She didn't eat a cookie?
No.
Okay. So that's right. And there was a big thing. Of course, this was 2003. So Joel makes a big deal about being on Atkins. So, it's basically a zero carb diet. And there was this whole thing
and the
about
biscuits.
Where were the biscuits?
Remember, he was feeding the old lady the biscuits.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I think it's the flour.
That's interesting. Yeah. That was, I mean, if it was mentioned in the video game, I don't remember it, but so she goes downtown to the watch place as well. Actually, let's back up a little bit because something I missed. It opens, she goes to school and she's sitting in class and there's a guy or girl sitting next to her and the bracelet is flashing her in the eyes. And I just like, what the hell is up with that? And you figured it out.
He was twitching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's all this tension that's being built early on. You're like, you see the old lady in the background doing this, but nobody notices, of course, because, they have plot blinders on at the moment. And then there's this one in school who's doing that. And then she goes downtown to this watch factory, which turns out watch repair place. Turns out it's actually a barbershop in Alberta here, which is kind of cool. A lot of places that
and it made the reference to when she gets off the bus and the little food trucks and everything beside the watch place was just filled with people.
Right.
And then when she leaves, they're all gone.
Right. It happens that fast because you hear as they're talking, and I love this because it builds this tension. You hear about this kind of virus or unrest in, was it Jakarta?
Yeah.
I believe it was. Yeah, Jakarta. And they're like, well, where's Jakarta? And then, she sees jets go overhead. And then as she's in the watch place, the gentleman's wife comes running out and she's like, we're closed, get out. And she says, go straight home. And you still don't know what's going on. And of course, the cool thing is this is in 2003. So it's not like you're going to go on, Facebook Live or YouTube or TikTok to find out what the hell's going on.
Or pick up a cell phone and call somebody.
Right. Yeah. You're still kind of lost. And I like that about it.
And that kind of had like the Walking Dead feel.
Oh, yes.
Because the Walking Dead was the same. Because they didn't have any, they didn't have the smartphones.
Right.
And like the first episode, it was just basically whatever the news was telling you and what you picked up.
Yeah, and you were limited to just that. And it was a smaller, more enclosed world. And so Sarah goes home and she's waiting up late. And the dad, Joel, he comes home late and he's like, hey, sorry, blah, 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 work ran late. And so he puts Sarah to bed after they watch a movie. And the brother-in-law...
Well, he calls and then he puts her to bed.
Oh, yeah. Right. So she's asleep. He goes to bail out his brother. Mm-hmm. And this is when the terror breaks. And the thing I loved about it, I always loved the shows. I wish they'd spend even more time on the collapse. But I put it right up there with, War of the Worlds, World War Z, and Dawn of the Dead remake. It was that well done. Hey, it happened fast. And so she wakes up and she hears explosions, which reminded me a bit of War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah, it was like lightning
with
thunder.
The lightning and stuff. Yeah.
Fuck, it still gives me chills to think about it. She goes outside, goes to the neighbor's house. Neighbors are...
Well, the dog got out.
Oh, the poor dog. Yes. Yeah.
So she takes the dog back.
Tries to.
Yeah.
And dogs are always a harbinger of evil. They're like, I know something, and we never pay attention to them. Right?
I always get so worried when they're going to kill off a dog.
I know. Like I Am Legend, right?
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard when they start.
In this one, the dog just runs away. So we don't know. We're going to pretend like the dog lived an old age and then passed away.
It never said anything if it affected animals.
No,
they haven't got onto that yet. Or
and
like that.
I don't know if they will, and maybe it's not important to the story, So she goes into the neighbor's house. She finds the old lady had, what would you call it, reanimated, or
because she was like, you could tell she was she wasn't mobile. She was in a wheelchair.
She was. Yeah, she had some kind of weird.
She was probably dementia,
had a stroke or something.
But because she couldn't feed herself, she couldn't talk, and she wasn't mobile. So,
and we go in, and she's like infecting spores into the caregiver.
She looks up, and you can see the spores. They look like tree root, plant roots coming out of her mouth. Yeah,
and it was creepy, like the little tiny fine roots that come out of mushrooms, right? Yeah, that's what it looked like, And the husband is laying on the ground and he's got blood coming out of his throat.
Yeah, he was infected already.
And you knew things were going to be bad.
Because he was twitching.
Yes, he was. That's right.
So he was infected, but he hadn't quite turned yet.
She always gets the specifics, that's why I keep you around,
Yeah.
And so she runs out and the old lady comes after her.
Yeah.
And that's when Joel and Tommy show up in the truck. And this is where they lean heavy into the video game. It was really cool. One says stroke, one says dementia. Hell, it could be both. Yeah, talk about a spread. All I know is she wasn't in her right mind and she was in a wheelchair. So could have been both. Could have been a dementia-induced stroke or stroke-induced dementia. Yeah. So they come running out, and this is where the action really picks up. I enjoyed this part. Was some of my favorite, and it really felt like a video game at this point.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about this entire show is it's based on a video game. And they lean heavy into that, right?
Yeah.
Like the oversaturation of the video gives that kind of that video game grainy look.
When they leave, and he said they kill the old lady.
Oh, with a wrench,
with a
great big pipe
and
wrench.
Then they jump in the truck, and he says, "Let's go, Tommy." And then they kind of, it's an older truck.
Yep.
But when they turn around the cul-de-sac and they're leaving, and they're in the camera shooting from the back. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm about 95% sure that the discussion between them and what they're saying is basically verbatim from the game.
Pure dialogue from the video game.
Yeah, because like even how it's shot.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Remember,
point of view, right? It's
well, you remember it shows that
or?
you're in the truck with Tommy.
Yes.
In the video game, and I'm pretty sure it's verbatim.
I'm
everything they said because it sounded so familiar.
Yeah, it was, and it So if you didn't know it was based on a video game, it could be slightly off-putting at first.
Yes.
Because it feels weird. It's jarring because all of a sudden you're like a passenger in the truck.
Yeah.
And they're driving along and all of a sudden they see this burnt down house and they're like, that's so-and-so's house. I can't remember.
But they're like talking to each other and it feels like you're sitting in the back seat.
Yeah. You're like
you're
like a third party experiencing it. Yeah. Right. And they do that a lot. So they're one time, like, okay, when you're in the truck and they're driving and Tommy's driving, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Tommy's driving and Joel's the protagonist. He's like, okay, let's try Highway 1 or let's go to the interstate. And then when that doesn't work, he's like, okay, let's back up and turn around. And it feels like dialogue from the video game.
Yeah.
And when they drive by, there's this really iconic shot of this farmhouse burning. In the video game, it's supposed to be their next door neighbor's house. But in this, it happens as they drive along. And it's a shot. For whatever reason, it stuck with me, kind of like some of the shots from War of the Worlds, you know, like the burning train and the bodies floating down the river. And
yep.
So we got Hoosier Prepping Nurse. Hey, good to have you. Said I've never seen the game. Like the first episode, I think it'll take off. So for the record, it was the largest television production in Canadian history.
Yeah.
So I hope it does because I think they spent something like $10 million an episode on it.
Oh, I believe it.
And Hunter said this is a video game. Yes. So there's actually two. There's The Last of Us 1 and The Last of Us 2. And I've never played Last of Us 2 yet, but
I think we have it.
We do. Yeah, I own it. I just
it
never made time to play it. And, we're just busy with everything. So yeah, they get on the road. They start driving. And this is where it really, really turns into a even more of a video game.
Yeah.
So they go downtown and it's this whole collapse thing is awesome. So they get in the small little town and they get blocked in, right?
Well, it didn't take long. Like it's a small,
well, it's Austin. Okay. It's Austin, Texas, but they're in the suburbs.
Yeah. And like, it didn't take long for the military to start showing up because they had the highways blocked off and they had military trucks everywhere.
It must have been something that was coming on. They knew it was coming.
Yeah,
because they're fucking there.
Well, they're trying to get out because they're trying to head towards Mexico.
Right. That's what they figure. Well, if nothing else, we'll head south and we'll go to Mexico.
Yeah.
And they get in like this. Well, it's a prairie town. It looks like an Alberta town, but it's they have it done up like a country town, and it's cool. And so they go one way. They can't. They go the other way. There's creatures and people on either end, and then a friggin' jet.
Well, then you can see the airplanes taking off.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
yeah.
all the airplanes are taking off because obviously they're fleeing.
Yep.
But then once they start taking off, you can see them starting to crash.
Oh, yeah.
Because the planes are getting taken over. And
at that point, it's fucking worldwide. You're like, yep, everybody's done because it's on the planes. It's spread, and it spread fast.
Yeah.
And so they get in this. If there was one scene in the entire first hour and 20-minute episode that felt just a little bit hokey, it was when, so the plane comes in, it crashes, it knocks the truck over, and they're knocked out, which is cool. And so they get up, they get out of there, and they're talking, right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, a sheriff's truck crashes in behind, and Sarah and Joel are in the alley.
Yeah.
But the brother's on the other side of the truck.
Yeah.
And he's like, go without me. We'll meet up. And that felt so much like a video game.
Yep.
Almost too much. It was the only, I was like, that's a fucking stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
You've got two cars. Yes, they're on fire. But the last thing you want to do is split up, right?
Yeah.
They could have made, anyway. So, but it works good for the plot.
Yes.
Because then it gets really exciting again because she hurts her ankle and Joel has to pick her up and run for his life.
Yeah.
And a clicker's coming after him, a fast one. And they have this really quick 15-second shot of this diner they run through, which is one in Alberta. I have it written down here. I'll get to that after. They come out the other side and they run right into a military guy, remember?
Yes.
So he's talking on the radio. And
Well, he's telling his commander that he's got 2 that aren't infected, and that
they ask where she's injured.
Yeah, and they say, yeah, and then you can hear him repeating, which again sounds like a video game.
Yep.
And but then you can tell that he was given orders to kill them.
Right. And he's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" And he hauls off. He gets ready to shoot, and just as he shoots, of course, Tommy shows up, the brother, and shoots him in the head.
Well, he shoots first, and
right.
then they roll, and then Tommy shoots him.
Or Joel. Yeah. So it sucks because even though you know it's going to happen, and this is kind of the first half of the episode, and spoiler alerts if you haven't seen it, well, sorry, but Sarah dies a very sad, very gruesome, very heart-wrenching.
You could tell he turned, and the bullet skimmed his side and went into her.
Right through her stomach, right? Yeah. And so Joel's there, and he's picking her up, and he's trying to put pressure on. He's like, it's going to hurt. And she's screaming and saying, no, Dad. And, the girl who plays the part is Thandie Newton.
Thandie Newton's daughter. Yes, not Thandie.
No. I just didn't finish my thought. But Thandie Newton played. What is she from? Trying to think.
Well, she was in Beloved.
Yeah.
And
anyway, great actress.
I always get her mixed up with the one that's on Guardians.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's a really good actress, and her daughter played this part. And so Joel's trying to hold pressure on the wound, and she's not going to make it.
Yeah.
And Joel's hollering.
The brother knows.
Yeah, because Joel's hollering to the brother. He's like, help us. And she dies in his arms.
Yeah.
And it just breaks him, right? And then so immediately they have a hard cut, and they go 20 years later to 2023, modern day. And the next scene is Boston. So they go from Austin, Texas to Boston. It never explains how Joel got there, at least not yet, but that's fine. But it opens up with a boy kind of limping a little bit, right?
Yeah, just kind of walk. His shoes were too big.
So he goes in, and this is where you get the post-apocalyptic city, and the whole place is collapsed, and it's contained. It has walls around it, but it looks very Children of Men-ish, right? Yeah. And it has kind of a 1984 feel and some Handmaid's Tale to it.
Yep.
So they pick up this little boy, and this is one of the craziest misdirects of the whole episode because, and you friggin' called it too, didn't you? You bugger. So they pull him in, they tie him up, and they're like, hey, how are you, little guy? We just need to do a couple of tests. And they scan his neck, and it comes back kind of,
it's red.
It's red, but it's kind of hard to tell. It's almost
he holds it down like this, and it's red because it's either red or green.
Right, but we don't know this yet. This is the first time we see this, and so the lady, security guard, whatever.
Well, she was military.
Yeah, military. She's like, hey, we're gonna get you some food. We're gonna get you your best toys to play with,
and some medicine.
And he said, but first we need to give you a quick shot, and they do. And then they cut to these people emptying bodies into a fire. Turns out it's Joel and his girlfriend. And,
no, just Joel and a friend.
Oh, Joel and a friend. Sorry.
Yeah, girlfriend wasn't there.
Right. And Joel's like, she says to Joel, I can't do this. And he looks, and it's the poor little boy with the shoes. And they euthanized him because he was obviously infected. And so that was originally where the first episode was supposed to end.
Well, and of course with like the whole point of euthanizing though is because when the fungus takes over, the host is killed.
Right. Yeah.
And basically the fungus uses the body as a puppet.
Right.
Yeah. So it's not like it's not like the person's trapped in the body.
Yeah, they're dead.
Yeah, like, and he hadn't turned yet, but he was positive, and it was on, and they showed the chart on the wall there.
Right. That neck bite or something.
And it's something to do with anything like legs and stuff. It's like 12 to 24 hours or something. Right. So he wasn't close to turning, but he was infected, and eventually it would have just killed him, and he would have been a puppet. So
because what we learn eventually is that once they turn, they continue to decompose, and then they basically, remember there's one stuck to a wall that's completely gone, and they just disintegrate as a person. There's nothing left to them. So I mean, they did the poor kid a favor, but it still sucks. You know?
It does.
So from reading some of the trivia, they said HBO wouldn't let them end the episode there because they thought if they ended the episode with 2 kids dying, that nobody would tune in next week.
Yeah.
So they're like, you know what? We're going to put episode 1 and 2 together, and we're going to make it a big super 120 minute hour and 20 minute episode, which I think worked. You know? Yeah. So, Hunter says, oh, good. Human fungi. Yeah. That's exactly what it ends up being. So yeah, that was a huge misdirect because you think, oh, they're going to help this little boy. And so they kill him. So, so a few thoughts. So as you come into this post-apocalyptic city, it's been 20 years, you know, outside of the city limits, everything's covered in greenery. Things have collapsed, of course, because 99% of humanity has died. Everything's goddamn dirty. There's amputees everywhere. Yeah. What's your theory on that? Because they don't really say, do they?
I don't think it was because of bites or anything. Though. I think it has a lot to do with probably like, I don't know, maybe bombs or injuries or gunfighting or anything. Because because they haven't really said anything about it, but they haven't said to the point where it's like The Walking Dead, where if they get bit, they could cut off.
Right. But because of course that's right where my brain went. Right.
Yeah. So, but it still doesn't make sense why somebody would be missing 2 legs.
Yeah. There's people missing legs, people missing hands.
So I'm thinking maybe a little column A, column B. I don't know. They might not ever
and
say.
They may never. Yeah. It's just very, what's the word for it? It's very noticeable, right? Yeah. Like it's apparent, it's there. And I don't think they put anything in this by mistake. I think there's a reason for it, and we'll probably find out. But the score, so the music is very Old West. Yeah. You know, it has this kind of, you know, country western 1800s kind of vibe to it, which I really dig.
Well, and they use and they work for the tickets.
Yeah, the credits, right?
But they haven't really said too much about it, but I'm assuming those are like to buy food and
probably trade them at the country store, you know, very similar to what they did on like Hell on Wheels, remember? Yeah. So if you guys haven't seen Hell on Wheels, that's basically when they're building the Cross Continental Railroad. And basically what would happen is you would work for a company. The company would open a store. The company would pay you in company credits, and then you're going to trade them for food. So you're stuck, right? And Hunter says, how many people are going to hurt themselves by chopping wood? Exactly. Yeah. And that's probably it. You know, these people trying to do things they've never done before. Yep. And it's just this post-collapse thing. So, you know, like I said, you get this early scene of Joel and his friend throwing bodies into a burn pile. And if you guys have ever seen the old movies Threads or The Day After, I can't remember which one it was, but it follows a nuclear collapse. And eventually they end up in these work camps where they're, you know, cleaning things up. And then, of course, Handmaid's Tale too, right? They have
it's so frustrating because, like, as much as you don't want to say too much of it, but it's so annoying that the whole world's collapsed, but yet the military still thinks they're in charge.
Oh, they got this big swinging dick complex, right?
Exactly. They still think they're in charge. They still think that they get to run the show because they're holding the gun. And it's like, because like you always think back and you're thinking, okay, if shit ever hit the fan, the last thing I would do is let a group of military individuals come in here and start telling me what to do, because like
go live on your own, right?
Go live on your own, or there's more people than there are military. Yep. Why don't they just overpower them, right? Because by this time they've already been like, the only thing that's separating them from you is their gun and how much ammo they have, right? And it's just, but it's just, they just think that they're in charge and everything, and the whole world's collapsed. You can't tell me there's still a government.
Oh, I know. Although,
so, well, like you had mentioned earlier about watching Jericho, right? Remember they came in and they were trying. Oh yeah. What makes think like there's no government anymore? Right. You have no say. You have no control. But it's just because you've got the ammo and the weapons, all of a sudden we have to bow down to you. You know what I mean? And I think that whole, I think that's what irritates me the most about these type of shows. Right. Yeah, because The Walking Dead was kind of like the same way, but then it kind of went back and they show they show the all the military camps were overrun. Right. And Dawn of the Dead was the same thing. All the military camps were overrun because there's more people than there are military.
Well, remember 28 days later? There's few military people, and like Hunter says, normalcy bias. And I get it, because you get these people who are like, well, the government's always taking care of me, so I guess I'll just, and then they just fall in line, and then it just keeps.
But
keeps
these
on
government
perpetuating.
run with an iron fist.
Oh yeah.
And that's where the Handmaid's Tale type thing
Mm-hmm.
comes in, because it shows them up on the platform, and there's like 3 or 4 of them.
Yep.
And they're all going to be hung. And there's a lady there dictating some sort of rules
Because they broke the rules.
But they're the ones that make the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And what's scary about that is that they make the rules, and those rules can change anytime they want.
Right.
So, well, today you broke this rule, but tomorrow we're going to think of something else that you can break, just so that because when they're doing that, it's like Handmaid's Tale.
Yep.
They're not doing it because of the rules. They're doing it because they want to put the fear into people.
And control.
Yeah, and that's
100%.
what it is. And I think that's what irritates me the most about this type of thing.
Yep. And you're not wrong. I mean, it also reminded me a lot of 1984. If you've ever read the book or watched the movie, I mean, it's a scathing rebuke of government and, government overreach. But you see, so there's this group who's fighting against the government or the powers that be. They're called the Fireflies, and they go around under the cover of darkness, and they spray paint their logo, and
they just seem like they're kind of useless.
They are.
Yeah, they're not very organized.
They're trying anyway, but so they're fighting it, and then every morning the government or the workers get sent out to paint over it, to pretend like it never happened, and it's very dystopian. And so I love
kind
how
of like 12 Monkeys too.
Yeah, very much like 12 Monkeys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I love when there's a lot of thought put into the writing. Of course, Neil Druckmann, he is the original director and writer of the game. He is co-producer, co-showrunner. And then the other one is the showrunner of Chernobyl, which was a fucking incredible show. We love that. So the writing's taut. There's no throwaway lines in it at all. So you go back to when Sarah, Joel's daughter, says that she wants to fix his watch. And he says, well, where'd you get the money? She goes, well, I sell hardcore drugs. And it's just a joke, right? And then you find out, 45 minutes later, 20 years later, how does Joel make a living? Well, he sells, was it hydromorphone or Oxycontin or whatever to
he has
soldiers.
Access to us.
Yeah. So Joel's a smuggler, and he's a hard man. He's a broken man. But one of the big things he does is he buys and sells narcotics, anything he can get his hands on to trade with. And he has this kind of outside connections. It's really cool. And I love, some of my favorite stuff are these kind of underground economy. They trade in cigarettes and food and drugs, of course, and information. There's a ham radio guy in there, an old guy who Joel trades cigarettes for information. And the old guy always gets he gets contact with Tommy, Joel's brother. And of course, part of the story is that they haven't heard from him in 3 weeks or something.
3 weeks, yeah.
So Joel's like, well, I guess I need to go find him. Where is he? And he's in fucking Wyoming.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up. I mean, I knew roughly on a map how far Massachusetts was to Wyoming, but it's 2,100 miles, a 30-hour drive if the interstates are running, and a 30-day walk. And he's like, yeah, I haven't heard from my brother in 3 weeks, so I think I better go. And this is in a complete post-apocalyptic wasteland. He wants to go find his brother. And I get it, So they've been making this plan, and they need a truck, right? That's part of it?
I think they have a truck. They need a battery.
A battery for the truck.
Yeah.
And this is where it kind of comes in again to, it feels like a video game.
Yeah.
Because it's a mission.
Yeah.
And I'm not shooting it down. It's fun. I like it. But
and we meet Tess too.
That's
the girlfriend.
The girlfriend who
I
think kind of looks like Charlize Theron, but when she was dolled up in Monster, when she played the serial killer. So I
think I got her mixed up. She kind of looks like the actress from Vikings, the one that plays Lagatha.
Yes,
but
she's a Canadian lady. That one.
Yeah, but
I can't think of her name. But it's not her.
No, I looked at and I was like, I was trying to figure out who she looked like. And I thought, okay, she looks like her, but then I realized it wasn't her. And then I looked her up and I was like, I don't recognize her.
I didn't either. No, I looked her up too, and she's I forget how. I looked at her age, and she's a lot younger than she supposed to. But they have them all done up as like they're old, right? Or, but
I don't recognize her from anything.
Not at all. And then we meet Marlene, who's the head of the Fireflies. And this is where we find out little Ellie, the mouthpiece. She's the other protagonist of the show.
Yeah, and I found like the only other show I've seen this girl in was Game of Thrones.
Yes, and she's great in that.
And she was good in that. But I found in this one, they're all swearing and everything like that. But I found that they were trying too hard to try to make her look too much like a badass.
I know, I get it.
You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, what is she, like 14? And I get it. But like, just because she's dropping the F-bomb every third word, it doesn't make her tough, and
because in the video game, I will say, I mean, yeah, she grew up in this post-apocalyptic world, so she has to be tough. But the cool thing about the game is there's times when you're just her, you play just her, and you have to find this strength that this little girl shouldn't have, and she does find it, but it takes time. So the first time we see Ellie is she's chained up, kind of similar to Christina Ricci in Black Snake Moan, remember?
Yep. And
she's just in this room, and they come in and they're like, recite the numbers slowly. What's your name? Hold your hand out. And she's used to it. And basically they're looking for signs of her changing into a zombie / mushroom or whatever it was, right? And there's something special about her, but of course they don't let you in on it for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And it turns out, of course, that, well, she's immune, right?
Yeah. Because
she got bit, was it 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior or something?
It was like 3 weeks or a month before.
Yeah. And I don't know how they knew. They don't explain this part of it, but we're not sure how they knew they expected or suspected she might be.
Marlene knew something about it because Marlene is the one that put her in the orphanage.
Right.
Because remember, she made the comment like, "Why are you my mother?" She goes, well, do I look like your mother?
Right.
Right. But
and that was cute.
I wonder if there's more to it. Like maybe she was
some sort of test subject.
Yeah,
or
like
something?
like a test baby, or maybe maybe her mother was immune.
That's true. Yeah.
Or like, I don't know, maybe they loaded her up with vaccines, or I don't know. They haven't got into it yet, but Marlene knew who she was.
Right. Yes.
So
and the idea is Marlene needs to get her out of the city and to a Firefly compound where the idea is they want to study her to maybe find a vaccine or a cure or who knows what. And so she also needs a battery for a vehicle to leave. And so there's this kind of interesting thing where Joel and Marlene are both looking for the same battery, and the same guy tries to sell it to both of them. Turns out to be a piece of shit battery. The guy ends up getting killed. There's this whole shootout that we don't get to see, but it's there. And that's when everybody comes together.
Yeah.
Or kind of. And so it's Joel and Tess, right?
Yeah.
They're there. Marlene's shot in the stomach, and her friend is like, her ears fucking shot off.
Yeah.
She's like, I'll take her. And she's like, you can't go anywhere. You literally have no ear. And she turns sideways and you get the chills. You're like, oh fuck, I didn't need to see that.
Shot her ear off.
And so Marlene's like, hey Joel, you got like 30 seconds to decide, but can you take this girl across country? And if you do, we'll give you all the guns and the truck you need. And it's and so he's like, oh, sure, why not?
Yep.
Which is cool, and this is what sets up the entire journey that's going to happen. And the whole, there's nothing hidden. It's basically Joel and Ellie traveling across the country to get her to this facility, but also to find Joel's brother. This is where it's all going to come together. And so they sneak through the sewers, they get out of the kind of quarantine zone, and then they run into the soldier that Joel sold drugs to.
Yeah.
And little Ellie's like, fuck you, and stabs him in the leg, right? And Joel has PTSD and a flashback, and he goes crazy and beats the guy, we think, to death, right? We're pretty sure.
No, he did.
Yeah, with his bare hands. But
that was because he had the tester, and Ellie came up as red.
Yes.
Because she's infected, but she's immune.
Right, but I think Joel thought he let her down or something, did he? Yeah. So that's where they kind of break it down, and he beats the guy basically to death, and then they have to sit around in a kind of a safe house for a while, right?
Yeah.
That's about where the episode comes close to an end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they go in, and I really enjoyed this part because you got Joel. Joel lays down the couch because he's this hardened, battle-weary dude, and she's like, what the hell are you doing? He's like, passing time. I got to sleep. You'll figure it out. So this is where one of the big themes of the episode come in, and it's music. Music plays a big part in the entire show. So she picks up this book It's a Billboard, a book of the Billboard top hits over the decades. And inside is this code, which is kind of cool. Do you remember how it worked? So 80s. So Joel has this radio, and I love the way it works. If they play an 80s tune, bad shit's going to happen. Yeah. If they play 70s music, I think they have some stash for him that he can pick up. And then I didn't catch what the 60s were.
60s, I think. I'm not sure. I can't remember the 60s because they only show it really quick. So you have to.
Right. Yeah. It's there. But so that whole thing. And so what's kind of cool is they're sitting there, and then do they leave?
No.
Because it closes on a.
Well, no, they are in the safe house before they kill the military guy.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, and then that's when they break out and everything, and as they're leaving, it starts playing 80s music. In the background. Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. So as they're leaving, they cut back to Joel's house or his safe house, and of course they pan in on this solar radio, and all of a sudden Depeche Mode comes on, and the song is, I got it written down here somewhere, Never Let Me Down, or Never Let Me Down Again by Depeche Mode. And so I had to look it up because that's just how I am. And of course they're really good at slowing the music down and making it sound ominous, of course, right? And so the lyrics say, I'm taking a ride with my best friend. I hope he never lets me down again. He knows where he's taking me where I want to be. I'm taking a ride with my best friend. We're flying high. We're watching the world pass us by. Never want to come down. Never want to put my feet back on the ground. And of course, it's alluding to the fact that they're getting ready to take this fucking 2,100-mile journey across the country. But it also plays super scary and ominously, right? And so the whole thing, like I said, it opens with White Flag by Dido. And it basically says, I'll go down with the ship. I won't put my hands up and surrender. There'll be no white flag. I'm in love and always will be. And that's kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen with Joel and his daughter. You know, he'll fight to the bitter end, and no matter what happens, he'll always love her, but it goes bad, right? Yeah. Really bad. And when I was prepping for last week's show, I was watching the trailer, and they had Take Me On by A-ha. Remember that song? Yeah. And of course, that's, it's kind of a fun, upbeat song, and they slow it right the hell. They do whatever they do in all horror trailers nowadays. They take some song, whether it's a kid's nursery rhyme or an old gospel hymn or an 80s classic, and they slow it way the hell down. But it works for this, because it's, you hear this, take me on, but it's playing just instrumental in the background, and it makes sense because like, this is Joel. He has to decide, is he going to take her cross country and look after her, right? And then when you first open in the city, there's so Joel in the second video game teaches Ellie how to play a Pearl Jam song. Yeah. And that's those chords that you always hear playing, and they play it in kind of a Western sound, but it's in there as well. So I had to, when we were putting this together, I looked it up on Rotten Tomatoes, of course, because I always do. And it has a 99% on Rotten Tomatoes. We loved it, right? Yeah. No, it's fucking incredible. It's one of the rare shows where it led up. It didn't let me down. Let's put it that way. But out of 117 critics, there were 2 that give it a negative rating. So I had to look them up and see what they had to say. So I thought this would be fun just to see. So Barry Hertz from the Globe and Mail, he's a fellow Canuck. So because Globe and Mail is a Canadian newspaper. So he said that might be an extremely fun reality to play in, but when you adapt a video game experience for TV, you're left with a passive experience, feeling like you're watching a copy of a copy. When the show jumps ahead 2 decades to find Joel working as a small-time smuggler in a military-controlled quarantine zone in the ruins of Boston, it feels so familiar. They said it almost feels like a play or an homage to Romero's films 28 Days Later, Escape from New York, and especially Children of Men, which we noticed. But said this Children of Men deja vu is only doubled when the true plot of The Last of Us reveals itself midway through the first episode, as Joel is tasked by a group, and this does, he's not wrong here, a group of anti-government rebels ferrying across the country a teenage girl who just might be the key to finding a cure. Now, so what? Here's my thing. just because you've seen a story before, there's only, I forget if it's 6 or 8 plot structures in the world. So every story that's ever been told has already been told. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. What separates a good story from a great story is the fact that you have characters that you care about in original settings, and you have emotional stakes in the story. And if you have all 3 of those, of course it's going to be a formulaic plot, because all plots are formulaic, because that's what it is. You know,
and what are the years of Children of Men?
Well, it was
what came out first, the video game or Children of
Men? Oh, Children of Men. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's based on a book and a movie. But you know, right. So there it is. Hunter says, how many plots can you have? 6, maybe? Right. So if you watch, let's slide back. If you watch the opening episode of The Walking Dead, and I think it's one of the best hours of television ever made, it is fucking close to the plot of 28 Days Later.
It is, yeah.
So what, right? Hunter says all of it is the hero's journey. That's exactly it. And people are like, well, which came first, 28 Days Later or The Walking Dead? Well, depends on who you talk to. Supposedly they wrote them separately, but around the same time. Doesn't matter. Who cares? So that's the thing. Like, just because you've seen a plot before doesn't make something not original. I mean, this is based on a video game that everybody already knows. So there's not going to be any surprises, and you don't really want to surprise people. But the fact remains that it's emotionally engaging, it's heartbreaking, it's entertaining, it's scary, it's tension-filled. The characters are incredible. So I think Barry Hartz was just having a broken heart kind of day.
Yeah, either that or he just wanted to piss on somebody's parade, right?
Well, I can't remember the guy's name, but there's one film critic that quite often, if everybody reviewed a film positively, he would review it negatively on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's always a few contrarians out there, right? So the other one was from a Pat Brown from Slant Magazine. And I understand where they came from, and I want to comment on this a bit too. But they said the show's production design takes many cues from the game, but the result is the environments can feel a little too manicured. The overgrowth of abandoned cars a bit too carefully placed. The moss and a patch of sunlight streaming through a collapsed roof, just too neatly lit. And the moments that pause on such sites a bit contrived in their attempt. The same details that can be so immersive in the game become mere window dressing for the apocalypse. Elsewhere, The Last of Us relies far too much on material taken directly from the game, as if merely stripping back the stealth and combat elements of gameplay were sufficient to adapt it for television. The result is a series that not only often runs like a compilation of extended cutscenes, but it's also assertively middle brow. I thought that was really mean. They said there's a general shirking away from horror tropes like atmospheric tension and explicit evisceration, for one thing, that renders a story about ravenous monsters rather toothless. So I read about this. The director himself and the writers decided they were only going to bring in enough violence that was needed. I think there was...
Well, this guy does know it's based on a video game, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. That's what pisses me off. He's like, it feels too much like a video game.
Well, it is a video game, you dumbass.
You can't have, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So when we prepped for last week's show, I wanted to do a list of the best video games turned into movies. And the problem is that there wasn't very many at the time.
There still isn't, except for this one.
And if you look back, you've got like Mario Brothers. And if you haven't seen the Mario Brothers movie from the early 90s, apparently it's hot dog shit. But it has nothing to do with the video game. And everybody's like, it's not faithful to the, you can't win. So you have critics that say, well, it strayed too far from the source material, so it's not good. Or in this case, it was too committed to staying with the source material. So like, which one is it? Which one do you want? Because in my opinion, I loved the way, all they're doing is taking a story and moving it to a new medium. And he's like, it's a passive story. Yeah, it's passive because it's fucking television. If you want it interactive, go sit down and play PlayStation, right? Like, I don't get it. And as far as, getting rid of atmospheric tension, I think there's tons of tension in it. And they use jump scares really effectively 2 or 3 times where it just absolutely, scared the shit out of you, right?
Yeah, but they weren't jump scares that were like, oh, gee, that was lame. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't jump scares like that.
No, it worked, right?
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just jump scares for the sake of jump scares. When they happened, it was because the character you're following is tense. They're nervous, and it kind of breaks that tension. You kind of giggle, and you're like, oh shit, that was scary. And
Yeah.
Hunter says, read Hamlet, Homer's Odyssey, Romeo and Juliet. All the ideas are done. Have been done before, will be again. Right. But you know what the cool thing is, humanity's nature, humanity's desire to continue to create means that we're going to get more stories. And I guess some people are going to call them derivative, but I think every creator has to put their own spin on something. So, what are you going to do, right? So I looked up a few little kind of trivia points too, which I thought was kind of neat. But the lady who plays Marlene, she's the only character in the show that also did the voice in the video game. Hey, Darkwing Dave, good to have you over on Twitch as well. Hunter, you're not alone over there anymore. So Merle Dandridge is the one who plays Marlene. She also plays her in the video game, which I thought was actually kind of cool. Hey, largest TV production ever in Canadian history. The diner they go through is a little diner called Evelyn's Memory Lane Diner in High River, Alberta, which is also cool. So we have this idea. I have this idea. This summer, maybe we'll take a weekend trip and we'll go around and take pictures of all the locations.
Well, maybe we'll luck out and they'll be filming.
That is true. Yes, that would be awesome. Actually be very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Byron Roberts says he's got to get caught up this weekend. Yeah, there's only one episode. It's an hour and 20 minutes, so it's not horrible.
We'll have to take Amy because I think Pedro Pascal is her husband.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah. He is a good looking dude. And his voice in this, so it's really weird. Because you think a guy like Pedro Pascal, you think he's like Spanish or Italian or I don't know.
Well, he is, but he doesn't.
He has no accent. He sounds like a typical kind of white bread American dude, like just real.
Well, Amy told me some trivia or some information earlier today about him. They did an interview, and he said that on the set they were filming for a couple of weeks. He said that he was in his trailer and he called one of his friends and he was crying. And the friend asked him what was wrong, and he said, "I have never been so sore in my entire life."
Really?
And his friend goes, "Well, you are 47," and he said that in the interview, and it's like you don't. And he said it's the first time he's ever filmed anything that has been this much action that he actually feels like he's 47.
So, and
so
guys, this tells you something.
Yeah,
because he's the goddamn Mandalorian.
Yep.
And he's also in Game of Thrones and has his head literally squished till his eyeballs are crushed. So it tells you how much this show, there's a ton of walking. Later on, there's a lot of horseback riding. It's going to be a ride, guys.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
He said his friend reminded him that he was 47 and that he has every right to be sore. But he said he was, I guess it took quite a toll on his body. So.
I can imagine, and we don't actually know if there's going to be a season 2 yet. I'm sure there will be,
they've already
but
started
they haven't
filming.
Yeah. Hey, we got there we are. Civil Defense Canada. Good to have you. They're in Ontario. It says, is the show coming out one episode a week or is the whole season available? We're looking to get Crave for a month to binge it, but don't want to do it till yes. So
it's just once. I wish it would all come out at once, but it's only once a week.
It's the typical HBO stuff, which is cool. I get it. So 8 more weeks and it'll be completed. So if you're waiting to pick up Crave, wait. Yeah, just wait. You can.
Although if you haven't picked up Crave, you can pick up. If you did get it, there is a lot. Like if you like Pedro Pascal, he's in Game of Thrones.
Yes,
and that's on Crave. And if you like Game of Thrones, and there's House of Dragon. Then Yellow Jackets is coming out, and then there's Handmaid's Tale. Like they're honestly,
Handmaid's Tale is pretty good.
Yeah, Crave is one of those streaming platforms that's one of the most expensive. But
that's the problem; it's so goddamn expensive.
But if you like binge shows, I find it's the best platform for that.
You certainly like it, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's half the reason she lets me live stream so much is that she gets to sit upstairs and binge her TV shows. So
yeah, I think I think I've watched Game of Thrones like 20 times, but like Crave is the best one.
Yeah, it is good. It's expensive, like I said, and I get it. So if you are waiting, 8 more weeks, you can follow us along. We're not, I mean, we're going to spoil it, but it's a story that's already been told. It's a 10-year-old story based on a video game that's already out there. it's a lot of fun. It's it's emotional.
But I think they're getting some snow in Ontario, aren't they? Are they getting snow?
Oh, I don't know.
So if you have if you have a couple good snow days, get Crave and just do some binge watching, because
they usually have a free preview or something.
I don't know how long it's for.
Yeah, we'll keep an eye out.
But you can get some good binge watching in there if you're snowbound for a couple days, you know.
So what did you think of the show overall? The first episode.
Oh, I liked it a lot. I think the only thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was Ellie.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's the character or if it's the actress. And everyone who's ever talked to me about, like, I'm not too keen on children actors anyway.
But she's a grown-ass woman who looks like a kid, poor thing. So
well, I don't think she's that
19
old.
or 20, I think.
Is she that old?
Yeah,
I don't think
so.
But I don't know. She's just like I said, I think they just amplified her too much.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like I'm pretty sure they'll tone her down a little bit.
Because she is a good actress. She is,
but
they have her, yeah.
Like, it is what it is. I honestly thought the actress that played Sarah was a way better actress.
Which one's Sarah?
Yes,
yeah, she really is. Yeah.
I thought she was a way better actress than the other one.
She's like 20 in real life.
Yeah.
But she played was it 14, 13-year-old?
I think she's a 14, 15. Yeah.
But yeah, she was really good. But then again, you know, she got to go through the full emotional range early on, right? Whereas Ellie, all we get to see is this hard, haggard Ellie, right?
Yeah.
So
and I like Pedro Pascal.
Oh, he's so good.
Like I loved him in Game of Thrones. And like, he's just a good actor, and he's not I find he's just believable.
Oh, absolutely.
And everything he does. Like, he's not like, he doesn't overact. You know what I mean? Like, and
he's
like,
an everyman kind of, you know?
Yeah, like he doesn't overact, and he's not like your typical Brad Pitt where, you know, like he's a decent looking guy, but he's not like a pretty boy. So he's a believable into whatever he does.
He was in Wonder Woman 84. I forgot about that.
Yes, he was. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think he's great. What I thought was really cool, and this is just something simple, is he changed his voice for the role.
Mm-hmm.
Like he has this very soft, almost Californian voice in interviews, but in the show, he has a bit of a twang. Yeah. And he honestly reminds me of most of my uncles. Like they have this, you know, growing up on the East Coast, we have this little bit of a drawl to our voice and kind of a country sound. But
that's what I mean, though. Like he was in Austin, Texas, and he had a twang, but it wasn't like, I'm going to smack you in the face twang, right?
Well, partner.
It wasn't like that. Like, it was like, it was only on some words.
Right.
And that's what I mean. Like, he doesn't overact, and how he talks and everything. It's like, okay, it's, you know, you don't even think, okay, he doesn't belong there. He's out of place, or you don't think that.
And it's, I guess when you think about it, it's a bit of a city Texas accent that he has, you know?
Yeah.
Because you hear a lot of people from anyway, it didn't, like you said, didn't hit you over the head. It was believable. But when you hear his voice from the show and his voice in an interview, you're like, oh boy, you are a good actor.
But then you hear his voice in Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah.
And you're thinking, because when you first watch him in Game of Thrones and you're listening, because he's got the heavy accent.
Yeah.
That accent suits his name and how he looks.
I just assume,
like, you automatically assume it's his real accent.
Yeah, me too.
Because when you're listening to him talk, you're like, and then you say, oh, well, his name's Pedro. Of course, that's his accent, right? And then when you hear him actually talk, you're like, wait a minute, why is he talking like that, right? So,
like, he's got to be one of the most in-demand actors right now, because between The Mandalorian and Last of Us, like, that's insane. And Game of Thrones, now that's gone, of course, but he obviously did well for himself. And, you know, at 47, he's not a spring chicken anymore.
No,
so.
Well, like his interview, right? Crying to his friends that he's hurting himself. So
what are you hoping to see more of, baby?
Well,
because we kind of know where the story's going to go.
We kind of know, there was but like I wonder if they're gonna like try to cram it into one season, or if they're actually gonna
Well, I'm wondering it too. And what's kind of cool is we've never watched or played The Last of Us 2.
No.
So we don't know really a lot of what happened in there.
Well, we know what happens to Joel and everything like that. But I don't know, like, are they actually going to follow that verbatim, or are they going to keep him in longer because it's Pedro Pascal, right?
They have to.
Like,
I mean,
I know, like, I think I'm going
to
be devastated if they do that. But someone made a joke the other day that you seen him getting his head squished on Game of Thrones. Now we're going to see it again.
Oh man,
So
can you
it's
imagine?
But it's like I kind of hope they don't kill him off. Like,
Me too.
because as much as you want to think, I don't think the girl who plays Ellie, I don't think she can carry that show.
Probably not.
No, and the girlfriend, she can't carry it.
Well, I don't. She doesn't stick around in the video game, right?
No, but Ellie can't carry that show.
Yeah,
she's not a hard hitter enough. She wouldn't be able to carry it.
But he is great. Yeah. I'm excited. I guess the thing that I'm really excited to see is Nick Offerman? He played Ron Swanson in Parks and Recreation. He has I don't know, I guess apparently it's like a side story. He's a character that gets introduced somewhere along the way. So he cracks me up in everything he does. I'm looking forward to seeing him show up because he'll be good. And
what makes me nervous too is that I hope they because right now the writers are the video game writers.
Neil Druckmann or whatever.
Yeah. And what makes me nervous is I don't want them to do a Walking Dead thing.
Right.
Where they X them out of it and they turn it into this big bullshit story.
Kind of similar to what they did with the final season of Game of Thrones, you mean?
Yeah. And I kind of hope it doesn't turn into something like that. And as much as you don't want it to end, I kind of hope they don't drag it out to 13 seasons or whatever, like they did with The Walking Dead.
This needs to be 3 or 4 seasons tops and be done with it. You know?
Yeah, and then you kind of hope that they don't change things around too much, but then you don't want Pedro Pascal to not be in the show, and then you kind of hope that they don't pull a whole. All of a sudden, they decide to get rid of him like they did with Rick.
Right.
And then it turns into a giant shit show and nobody wants to watch it. Because I am an avid Walking Dead fan. And the new season has been on Netflix now for about a month. And I've only watched half of episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
The first episode. And it's because it's so difficult to watch. And it's
some of the early seasons, like I said, were some of the best TV ever.
Oh, I'll watch season 1 through 5.
Right.
I'll watch that religiously. But then it gets worse and worse, and now the new season I've been waiting for. I was like, well, I'm gonna watch it, but I can't even bring myself to watch it. So
I think if I had to guess, I think about 5 to maybe 7 seasons, but usually 5 seasons seems to be the magic number.
Yeah,
or even 6, because was it Breaking Bad? All of those shows, they have what I think is very important for the success of a show is to have a narrative structure from the beginning to know where you're going, right?
Yeah.
Not like Lost when they're like, hey, we have a great idea for a show and then we're just going to stretch it out over a bunch of seasons, which is kind of funny considering, if I'm not wrong, the creators of Lost, I think, had something to do with Game of Thrones as well. So it shows. But what I think is important is to have a narrative structure designed before you start so that you have a cohesive story from start to finish, instead of having this open-ended thing. So I really hope they have plans behind the scenes for, say, 4 seasons or 5 seasons.
I don't think they'll be able to stretch it that far.
And maybe not. That's cool too, But
even, I'd be happy with 3 seasons.
Oh yeah.
Right.
But I mean, HBO is going to want to make their money, and
I know.
So we'll see.
And that's okay, but they're not going to make any money if they kill off Pedro.
Right.
They won't, because he's the show carrier.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't stretch it out long enough to where Joel runs into those guys and is killed, they're not going to get very many seasons out of it.
Right.
So, and then because I can guarantee I'm probably not going to watch it if Pedro's on it.
Sure.
So they probably, I don't know, maybe they're going to base it around where that's the last episode.
That could be.
I don't know. But
I'm looking forward. There's an iconic building in the game, and you also see it in the show, but it's this tilted skyscraper. So it's, I don't know who knows what happened, but it's at a 45-degree angle, and they have to go inside this building. And of course they run into lots of clickers or walkers or spore, whatever they are, mushroom people. And I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. Hunter says he stopped at the governor on Walking Dead, and
Pretty much, yeah.
yeah, I enjoyed. I think the first thing that pissed people off was when you thought they were going to finally have the conclusion to the governor battle, and then they're like, "Psych, they survived. Let's do it all over again."
Well, I almost stopped watching when they killed Herschel.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I almost stopped watching, and then I'm like, no, I have to watch it because I got to make sure that they kill the governor. But I really started losing interest when
Negan showed up, or no?
Well,
that's when I stopped. When
Negan showed up, that whole season, like that season wasn't horrible, but then when the next season and they just kept dragging and dragging, and it's like, how many times can Negan,
show up and swing his bat,
and
act all cocky,
and let out a couple, thinking, like couple whatever he insults and whatever he did. But I really legitimately stopped watching when Brick,
which was stupid, right? There we go. Chicken Hawk says, I stopped when they killed Glenn. Things got too unrealistic, and that's where I stopped. I remember being so excited
about Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes.
Yeah, I was.
Then I'm like, well, guess what? They're not going to let him use the F-bomb. And if you I read all the comics beforehand, and Negan is he finds creative ways to swear. So he shows up and he has the swagger, but they just really neuter his character after a while.
Well,
everything just got so stupid.
Well, and it's like every week you'd watch it, and it was like it was like trying to find a funny punchline for Negan to say every week. It was like, why do you have to have a punchline for him? And
it's like when Bart Simpson was the "I didn't do it" boy. Every week, like, just say it. Yeah,
and then when they had Daryl locked up in the room and everything,
feeding
him
dog food sandwiches. It was awful.
Like,
I don't miss it.
No.
I'm excited for this because, like I said, the opening of the show was as good to me. Now, I World War Z. Take the movie or hate it, whatever. But
I love World War
the
Z.
opening collapse is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
The opening collapse in Dawn of the Dead was absolutely incredible, and this rivaled that. I loved it. It was on a smaller scale in some senses, but it was super good. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and I hope they keep filming it in Canada.
Oh, they will.
Yeah,
they've got the tax breaks. They've got the look. They've got it set up, and It's Me said it all went downhill after Daryl didn't have a bike anymore. And Darkwing said 80s action hero formula. Exactly. That's exactly it,
Yep.
So you guys have got me thinking. I seen Hunter earlier was saying, should he buy The Last of Us? Well, number one, it's been a PlayStation Classic for 10 years.
It is actually kind of hard to find.
It can be, yeah.
GameStop.
But it's only a Sony game, so you can only get it for PlayStation. It's not available for the other ones.
But if you have a PlayStation, you'll probably get like a previously played one at GameStop. And
well, what I got thinking about was
Amazon, maybe.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
I've been trying to figure out a way to build my Twitch a little bit. So maybe I'll have to dust off the PS4 and play a little Last of Us and
oh boy, here we go.
Stream on there. Hey, that would be fun. Hunter said gasp. Yeah. I don't know. I think it'd be cool. I've been trying to find a way to branch into Twitch a little bit more.
Why don't you bring it down here?
Yeah. Oh, you love it. Jesus. She loves watching me play video games. So not that I do it that often, but so yeah. What do you think? Where do you think it's gonna
I just hope that, like I said, I just hope that whoever's writing, like, that the writers don't back down, don't let anybody take it over.
Right.
Because if they do that, it's gonna ruin it.
Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah.
And because it's been fucking good so far. And there's only 9 episodes, so it's not like they're going to take this story and run it over 15 or 20 episodes. It's not going to get.
Well, that's what I'm worried about, because like if you get these money hungry HBO executives in there, and all of a sudden these video game guys are like, no, this is all it's going to be. And they're going to be like, you need to make us more money. And then they're just going to turn it into shit. And that's what I'm worried about. And like, I just hope they don't do that. Yeah.
I'm excited for this first season because, like I said, it's world built. It's I don't know, everything about it is it's pretty damn cool. It's full of tension. It's this fully realized world. You know, are there cliches? Yep, there sure are.
Mhm.
Does it feel a little off-putting or jarring sometimes because it's a video game? Yeah, but
Yeah.
whatever. So did remember that movie Hardcore Harry? I don't know if you do. It was filmed in first person, and I loved it.
But the problem is though, like, don't go in.
I said Henry, I think it was.
Don't go in watching it and expect something that's not there.
Right.
Like it's based on a video game, so yeah, it's going to be based on a video game. But don't go in there and like just don't go in expecting anything. And if you're not expecting anything, then you're going to enjoy it.
Right. And go in knowing it's a video game, you know. That, and that's cool. And it's written like a video game, but it's good fiction. It's really good fiction. It's some of the best television out there right now. And like I said, we love to talk about post-apocalyptic shit. So why not do it?
Well, see, and that's the thing, like, because we went in with, and if you've never played the game, you're not going to go in there with too many high expectations. But where we had higher expectations, it didn't let mine down.
No, that's what. Okay, so that the entire episode watching it, that's what I was worried about was.
Like your expectations are way up here, right?
Because they were. Like, you knew. It felt like to me, or at least I was as excited for this as I was for Batman v Superman when that came out.
Yeah.
And that let me down so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was such a comic book geek at that time, and I wanted it to be good. And even after I left, I was like, well, you know, and then the more I thought about it, I'm like, fuck, no.
Yeah, the running joke there is of the two Marthas.
Oh yeah, it was just so
and don't get me wrong, like Henry Cavill is an incredible Superman, and
and Ben Affleck's a great Batman.
Yeah, I'm so choked about him not being it, but it was good up until about that point.
Sure,
it's kind of like okay,
but this is the rare time when a show. Okay, this is what you have: a beloved property that has a built-in fan base. So the first thing that Hollywood loves to do right now is to piss off built-in fan bases. You can look at Wheel of Time, you can look at Lord of the Rings, you can look at possibly the new Game of Thrones. How many more? What was the Henry Cavill show that he just did? The Witcher, right?
The Witcher,
yeah. So they're really good at how about what's the latest Scooby-Doo, Velma?
I don't know too much about that. I just seen it on Crave, and I was like, what the heck is that?
Well, the thing is, Hollywood loves to take existing properties and absolutely piss off a built-in fan base. And I don't get why that is, because you have this built-in fan base that they're like, oh, anyway.
What's the term? Because they're more woke.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think they're more asleep. But so you've got this where they're built in, and Chicken Hawk says, Tim's trying to make money playing video games now. Now that's awesome. You're an amazing entrepreneur. Thanks, Hawk. So you've got this, you have an existing property, you have a built-in fan base, you have the highest budgeted show on the most premier cable network on Sunday night. You have as much hype as possible. You have an incredible cast, and you think something's got to let me down. And it didn't. That was the great thing about it. It absolutely lived up to its expectations. It wasn't any more than we wanted, but the better part was it wasn't any less than we wanted.
But what makes it worse now is our expectations are up there now. Because the first one didn't let us down. So now they're really high, and I'm just hoping the rest of them won't let us down.
Oh, Bay State Prepper, good to have you. You said they were just talking about this on the Tim Pool podcast. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a big podcast. Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys. I'm going to guess that Cam and Kobe on the Casual Preppers will probably talk about this too, but we've been intentionally introducing pop culture for a while because it's one of our passions. And so I hope people can buy into the once a week pop culture thing because it's a good outlet for us, you know?
Oh, yeah. Like I could sit for hours and talk about movies.
Well, we watched this Monday night because I live stream Sunday night. So we watched a show, and then we immediately watched it again on Tuesday night because I said, this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to watch the episode first and enjoy it. I wanted to breathe in the emotions of it and just enjoy it. And then I wanted to watch it a second time and take all of the notes that I could. And that's
because when you're so excited, you miss things, right?
Oh, yeah. So here we go. We're talking about, so first off, where was it? It's Me said the Doom movie wasn't horrible. Darkwing Dave says the second Dread movie. Oh, the second Dread movie.
I don't think I've seen Doom.
It has The Rock in it.
Oh, that's why.
But the second Dredd movie was fucking incredible.
And I like Stallone's Dredd too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like.
Oh, somebody said heresy. Which one? It must have been about The Rock we're talking about.
Or about Doom.
Oh yeah. So the Carl Urban plays Dredd. And I always wanted to make
Carl
a sequel.
Urban.
Oh, I have a man crush on Carl Urban. He's so good in The Boys. If you haven't seen The Boys, that's one of the best shows on TV right now. And it's not getting stale. It's been 3 seasons in or something, and it's
getting a little bit more crass, but it's not getting stale.
And the crazy thing is, they can't even do everything they did in the comic book. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, The Boys is not for the faint of heart, though.
No,
if you're it's
if you have a problem with a miniature superhero running up somebody's ass and then blowing up, then you might. There might be
but there's a lot more in there.
Yeah,
like if you're sensitive to a lot of that stuff, I don't recommend it.
It's me says Stallone was the only Dredd. No, I'll take Demolition Man any day of the week. Give me my Taco Bell or Pizza Hut or whatever. But nobody's better than Carl Urban at Judge
But
Dredd.
you know what though? Stallone did it first.
Yeah.
And for them to do a remake and use Carl Urban, it was good. It wasn't an insult to Stallone.
No,
because he was really good, and he's an incredible actor, and he didn't butcher the movie.
Right. And the thing is, he did what Stallone was doing in the mid 90s. You had Demolition. It was basically another Demolition Man in its own way. It was kind of this funny tongue in cheek, ultra violent kind of thing, and that's what it was. That's all they could see. They were making, like, I guess Blade was kind of the first edgy comic book movie, right? But before that, they didn't know what to do with them.
And it's kind of like another comparison, like when you take Total Recall.
Oh yeah,
right. Like you can't
Total Recall.
You can't do Arnold Schwarzenegger and then turn around and do Colin Firth or
Colin Farrell.
Colin Farrell.
No,
you can't do that.
Yeah, you're right.
At least Carl Urban was really good next to Stallone.
Yeah.
But like the Total Recall the remake was ridiculous. Like Jessica Biel and Colin Farrell. Like how do you even compare that to Sylvester or to Schwarzenegger?
It's true.
Like how do you even do that? Like there's no comparison there. And even some of the actresses in there, like Sharon Stone, like how do you compare?
She was good in
but how do you can't if you're gonna do a remake, at least try to find an actor or actresses that are comparable to the other ones, so that you're not embarrassing yourself. One
of the guys that influenced me the most on film was Dave Troughton. He was my literature of Western world professor in college, but he didn't like books. He liked movies. So he turned it into a film studies course, which was fucking awesome. Then he let me take the course a second time for free. I just got to sit in and watch movies with him. But he always said he got so tired of them trying to remake good films. He said, why don't they take old shitty films and try to remake them better? Because he was like, how many times did they remade Miracle on 34th Street? Right. So yeah, it was awful. So It's Me says Carl Urban is awesome in damn near anything. Now you said priest. I'm thinking they mean preacher.
Preacher.
Which
was so good.
Preacher. Yeah. So, okay. For a guy who used to be big into comics, Preacher is my all-time favorite. Priest. I don't know Priest. That must be a movie.
Vampire. Okay.
Well, Darkwing, you got me excited now because he played the main character in
Preacher.
No, he didn't. That wasn't Carl Urban, was it? Nope, that was another British guy.
No,
that looks like
that was Dominic. God. That was Dominic Cooper.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah.
That was Dominic Cooper.
Oh, there we go. So, okay, you're right. It's me. Carl Urban is awesome, and he would make a damn good Preacher. I would love to see HBO take on Preacher and make it a hard R like it's supposed to be, because AMC is like, I don't know.
Well, and Dominic Cooper's incredible.
Oh, he was so good. Yeah, it
wasn't
his fault.
He's just as good that we're like comparing him to Carl Urban.
That's true. Yeah.
Like, no, he was so good in that one.
So Valerie, hey, look. First off, what is this? If I get this wrong, I apologize. Valerian, perhaps. Anyway, yeah.
Is that like Valerian Steele from Game of Thrones?
I don't know, but greetings from Portugal. Great to have you. I really appreciate having you. So their question is, how many seasons do you think they will make? I think this is the next big TV show after Game of Thrones for HBO.
That's why I said Valerian.
Yes, I agree. I think they want it to be that big tentpole show because they have House of Dragon kind of running half the year, part of the year. And then the other part, they're going to have this running. Now, we kind of guessed. I hope it doesn't go any more than 5 seasons.
I'm thinking probably 3.
3. And it could be, unless they decide to diverge from the source material, which we all seen was a bad idea when they did it with Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm going to guess 5. Mama Bear here is going to guess 3. We'll probably split it in the middle, and we'll go with 4. So
adopted it.
Oh, okay. So Valerian says, yeah, my name is Valerio, and I adopted it with Game of Thrones. Thanks, guys. Hey, no worries. It's great to have you.
Yeah.
So
I love Game of Thrones.
yes,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. And House of Dragon.
Yeah,
House
you're a
of
big
Dragon.
fan.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I tried to get into Game of Thrones 3 times with you before I finally did. And then, of course, the final season really let me down.
Yeah. Well, the thing with Game of Thrones is you have to get through the first 2 episodes.
Yes, because they're dull.
Well, because one was a pilot episode. And then the second one is, and it's like character introductions and everything like that. So you have to get through all those. But then once you get to the 3rd episode, it's like, it's very addicting.
But what was another show that was? Oh, Breaking Bad was like that.
Yeah,
I think Breaking Bad is maybe the best television show ever made. But we tried 3
the
or 4
last season sucked.
Yeah, but remember when we tried to get into it 2 or 3 times, and you got to stick with it 2 or 3 episodes to get into it because
you have to get through the character building.
Yeah, you do, and that's fine. And then you care about them.
And then you have to get through the pilot.
Yes,
because the pilot because it's so funny. The Game of Thrones pilot show, Tyrion, his hair was like yellow. Remember, and then they kind of toned it down. And,
pilots are always so funny.
Yeah, and then there was a couple different kid actors that they changed out, and and his hair was like ridiculously yellow, and then they toned it down and everything.
So Valerian says that we should check out the TV show From on MGM Plus. The best show of last year for me. It has Harold Perrineau from The Matrix and Lost as the main character. What a great TV show.
Now, there's another one that we haven't watched yet, but my sister said it was really good, was Mayor of Kingstown with Jeremy Renner.
Yes.
I have yet to watch it. Her and her husband watched it, and they said it was really, really good. And that's on Paramount Plus.
Right.
But I'm kind of tied up with Yellowstone and 1923 right now.
Which is that whole world, right?
But Yellowstone has stopped now, but 1923 is still going. And actually, I didn't watch last week, so I have 2 episodes to watch.
Well, I got 3 live streams in the next 3 nights, so you're covered. So Hunter wants to know how many missions there are in the game. It's been a while since I played, but I want to say 6 or 7.
Yeah.
And they cover most of it, according to the trailer. Looks like they cover most of it because toward the end, there's a winter mission where they go toward a hydroelectric dam and that sort of thing.
And that's where Tommy is, right?
Yes. Yeah. And that seems like they're heading there. Not sure. I guess we'll find out, but it'll be good. Valerian, I like this. Here we are. Okay. We'll go back just a little bit. Lost the comment. Sorry, guys. Valerian says, I think The Last of Us is going to have a lot of spin-offs as well. The universe is massive. I think you're right. And that may be a way to go.
Well, and they're doing that with Walking Dead right now, too.
Yes.
And I heard that they're doing that with Game of Thrones.
Right.
They're doing one that's, I don't know if it's been approved yet, but it's going to be called Snow. And it's going to...
Two different people are talking about it.
Yeah, it's going to follow John after the last episode of Game of Thrones.
Yes, I liked it. I mean, I like Jon Snow, I should say. So this is a good question based date, and this is good. So he said, Tim, I don't watch TV anymore. How are you able to suspend disbelief when there's so much propaganda being subtly and not subtly pushed down? So I get it. I do. First off, I guess I've been a movie buff. I've watched movies since I could basically walk.
Me too.
So, and Gene Siskel and Robert and Ebert, Siskel and Ebert, they always said that film was the willing suspension of disbelief. So, and it's tough, like I said, at the very beginning of this, there was a big kind of a throwaway point about climate change. Wherever you stand on it, it's just one more thing that's in there. And I get it. I guess I don't have much of a choice. For us, it's, I want to be entertained. I want to follow it. I expect it. As long as it doesn't get so ham-fisted that it's beat me over the head. I've turned things off because I'm like, this is not entertainment. This is preaching. And I hope, here's my hope and belief is that if some of these big companies keep pushing as hard as they can, whatever their certain beliefs or message is, if you guys watch Critical Drinker, he always talks about the message. So here's my thing. Everybody comes to writing with their own personal biases. And if I was to write something tomorrow, first off, it would sound like a toddler wrote it. But secondly, it would have my own personal. Now, the thing is, when it comes down to that, you have to, you're going to have your biases in there, but just try not to hit people over the head with them, right? Because what I think fiction is, fiction, whether it's written or visual, is a great medium to teach people and to not just entertain, but to get your message out there. So it's a long way for me to come around to say, I've always been good at suspending my disbelief, but if it gets too ham-handed, too ham-fisted, and they're beating me over the head with it, I lose interest and I move on.
Well, and I think that's kind of why I like shows like Game of Thrones and stuff like that, because I find there's no hidden agenda in there.
At least the first one, I don't know about this one, right? So, or the House of Dragon.
Yeah, no, same with House of Dragon. Like it's fantasy,
right?
And I like, if there is hidden agendas in there, I haven't picked up on anything.
Sure.
Now, but then when you get watching other shows, kind of like, like for example, the newest seasons of Walking Dead,
or any of the Disney Marvel TV shows.
Yeah, there's always it all, like, you get watching it and you're like, oh my God, not this agenda again. And it's like they're just cramming stuff down your throat, and I don't even watch them.
And here's the other thing. If I feel the writer is earnest and talented, I can overlook their personal beliefs because they're willing to put out a piece of entertainment.
As long as it's not as long as it's not like in your face all the time. So
here's the thing. Where I find a difference is if it's a writer who earnestly, truly believes what they write and they want to entertain you, and the entertainment is first and their personal beliefs is second, I will watch that. But when it feels like it was a paint by numbers written by committee simply to check off a bunch of diversity boxes, that's where I check out. And that's fine. And that's my own personal.
And you can tell.
Right.
You can tell when something's been written.
Absolutely.
That way. And it's the way they break things down.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like it starts here and then it's like it follows like the same pattern,
right?
And the routine, you're like, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous, okay? Because and you can almost predict what they're going to do next.
Absolutely,
because it's a whole board that's been sitting there and they have no talent and they have nothing. All they have is like, I've never written anything in my whole life, but we got to make sure that this is in there,
right?
And then
that's what it comes down to.
And you can predict what they're going to say.
Absolutely. Valerian says From is a sci-fi horror. Reminds me of Wayward Pines, which we've never seen. We'll have to check it out. I
think we tried. Is that was that werewolves? I
can't remember. We'll have to check it out.
I think we tried Wayward Pines, and I think it was like a werewolf.
So I really need to comment on Chicken Hawk's post here, because this is this touches a special spot in my heart. So Chicken Hawk said he had to suffer through the first 5 episodes of the Trailer Park Boys, then he fell in love with it. And that is true. So here's the thing. For those who don't know what the Trailer Park Boys is,
I'm going to put it out there. I don't like the Trailer
I know you
Park
don't. I tried to get Charlotte to watch it.
I like Bubbles.
Yeah.
But that's it.
So it takes place in my home province of Nova Scotia. It was filmed. I knew people who acted just like the show. So anyway, it's pretty crazy. I love it.
We still know people that act like it.
I loved Mr. Leahy, God rest his soul. And the guys are great. But it's a funny show. It's satire at its best. The problem is it's so realistic.
Yeah.
Even though it doesn't seem like it is, we know people just
But it's only realistic if you're from out there.
Right.
And I think we had some realistic people that just lived up the road from us. Who lived down Digby Neck.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't like it. And I get it. It is,
Hunter says he's never seen Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. If you can only pick one, Breaking Bad.
Game of Thrones.
Breaking Bad.
Game of Thrones.
Asshole, shut up. No. Valerian says, just subscribe to your channel. Positive energy from you both. Thank you. We appreciate that every time. Yeah. And Hunter says the woke agenda and these things are fantasy. Yeah. So I find fantasy is kind of where it ends up, right? And here we go. Yeah. Valerian says, I'm disappointed that Netflix, they've made some great TV shows just to cancel after $18.99 in Mindhunters. Yeah. So
I tried $18.99.
Yeah.
I tried. I got halfway through the first episode, and I'm going to eat my own words here. I know you have to get through the first couple, but I just found it so boring, and it was hard to follow, and it was dark, and like not dark scary, but like dark, like the whole filming was dark, and it was hard to follow. And I couldn't watch it. But Netflix has fallen into their own hype. And they're getting ridiculous with their shows. And
it's funny because a good buddy of mine I went to college with, Matthew Rose. Yeah, he was always kind of on the leading edge of things. He bought stock in the satellite radio companies when they first came out. Anyway, I had a memory from about 10 years ago, and he was praising Netflix at the time. And it was like, what I love about Netflix is they're patient with their shows, and they're willing to tell a full story over 5 or 6 seasons without canceling it. It's great. And he was so happy because that's exactly what they were until they weren't. And now they cancel everything quick.
Well, I think the only show that I have seen on Netflix in the last little bit that I've liked is You.
Mm-mm.
And
you know, that's not an original Netflix.
No.
They picked that up after another channel canceled it.
Yeah, and I do. And You is very good.
And I love You too, honey.
But You is good. I tried Wednesday.
Yeah.
No interest whatsoever. But it seems like every time I go on Netflix, they're spitting, like they're not just doing one where it was like, oh man, this is gonna be really good. They're spitting out like 15 of them.
Well, I mean,
they're all, and they
they
kind of remind me of like Hallmark movies.
When we talk about things written by committee, Netflix is worse than that. They're written by an algorithm. They look at it and they're like, okay, people like post-apocalyptic, so let's check these boxes and let's do it. And that's kind of it's been their downfall eventually.
But they're shooting them out like Hallmark movies, and they're low budget, and like, because you remember when they 2 years ago they had Bird Box, which it was what it was, but I've watched it a couple times. Like it's cheesy, but it was different, right? Yeah. And then they did that one with Stanley Tucci
with the flying dinosaurs.
Yeah, the flying dinosaurs, which it wasn't horrible, but it was still, Netflix put it out, but they were releasing them slow enough that you could actually appreciate when they were putting them out.
Absolutely.
And then now it's just like that, and it's like, and then you get on there and you're like, what the heck are these?
Yeah, and like you said, some of them they feel like they're you know. I was in Walmart the other day and seen a robotic floor cleaner, and he could probably write better shows
probably
than some of the Netflix stuff, you know. But
and Stranger Things.
Oh, yeah,
I do like Stranger Things. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be the last season.
Well, Stranger Things at this point reminds me of Beverly Hills 90210. You guys remember that? By the time they finished, these guys were like 38 and they were playing 18-year-olds.
Well, and the last season of Stranger Things had an agenda to it too. So it's like,
I know it gets
Why can't you just leave it alone? But
in the words of It's Me, says the movies and TV shows need 3 things: senseless violence, gratuitous sex, and no plot. I want to be entertained.
Exactly.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, and no agenda.
Yep. And Valerian, you are right. Ozark felt like a failed Breaking Bad. It had all of the makings of something that should be awesome, and it wasn't.
And it's awful because I love
Jason Bateman.
Oh,
yes.
He I find him hard to take as a serious actor.
But he did good in it.
He did really good, but he's so funny.
Oh yeah.
Like when he does comedy. But they dragged that one out way too long. I think we watched 2 seasons?
Yeah.
Not even, and I was done with it.
It was just so damn earnest. The whole movie, the whole show just felt like you said, a failed Breaking Bad. It felt like they're like, okay, we have a comedic actor, kind of like they did with Bryan Cranston, who is now going to break bad. He's going to turn bad, and he's going to be an anti-hero. And we're going to embrace it, and we're going to go hard and balls to the wall, and we're going to do it. It's going to be more Breaking Bad than Breaking Bad was. And the problem is it just didn't work. You know? And
it is too bad because Jason Bateman is a good actor.
Oh, sure. And I don't think it hurt his career any.
No, I don't think so. Like there hasn't been much he's been in that I haven't liked.
Yeah, no, he's been good.
But yeah, no, Ozark wasn't very good.
Hunter says he loves Death and Robots. Now, you've never seen that. I've watched bits and pieces, but I never stuck with me, you know. So And Valerian says it's hard for a guy that made success with Hangover to jump towards a Breaking Bad style, but he did pretty good to me. Well, it's funny you'd say that because I was listening to, I think there's a podcast I just found the other day called Shat on the Movies or something like that. And it's a group of 3 friends who talk about movies, and they just did a review of The Truman Show. And they talked about how Jim Carrey was so successful at going from a slapstick comedian to more serious stuff like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and one of my all-time favorites, The Truman Show. And it can be tough, but boy, when comedians do it, I think it's easier for comedians to go serious than it is for serious actors to go funny.
Well, I think the funniest Jason Bateman movie was that I think he's funny is Identity Theft.
That was good.
Yeah,
that was in spite of. I mean, Melissa McCarthy was.
No, she was funny in
yeah.
that one. Like I think that was probably like I don't like comedies, but I laugh at that one every time I watch it. So no, that and he's so good in that.
Oh yeah, and Melissa McCarthy. I think she's bought into her own hype.
Well, she's a female of The Rock.
Yeah, that's true.
Bought into her own hype, and of course, and her husband's always the director.
Right.
So
kind of like Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, regardless, she's gonna be in his movies.
Right.
And she's kind of bought into her own hype, and then after Identity Theft, her movies were just like crap.
Because the Heat, or was it Heat or it was
Heat.
The Heat, right?
It was either Heat or The Heat.
Yeah, the one she did with Sandra Bullock. It's one of the rare movies that I laughed out loud at, like beyond laughed out.
But that
loud.
wasn't really her. That was Sandra Bullock.
Oh, they were so good in that. But
yeah,
it was Melissa McCarthy too when she talks about she's looking for these really tiny things.
The little tic tac balls.
Yeah, because she said her commanding
they're about
officer,
this big, and they're probably in a container.
He lost his testicle somewhere, But it was funny. Yeah, So, what do you think, Mrs. Cook? It's been fun, hey, tonight.
Yeah,
So we're going to do this every Friday night. I believe it'll be 7:00 Mountain Time. We're gonna work our way through all 9 episodes of The Last of Us, and then we're gonna go. And I think maybe who knows? We might end up going into something a little more retro after that. Hey.
Yeah. Oh yes.
Valerian said. Oh, sorry. We got another. People are hating too much Bella Ramsey about being the actress for Ellie. What are your thoughts? And Pascal conquered me in the first episode already. Yes.
Well, I said earlier, Bella Ramsey. I've only seen her in Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
and she was in her character there,
right?
But it's going to take me a couple episodes with her on this one.
So,
Pascal, I love him.
Yes.
Doesn't matter what he's doing.
The thing that pisses me off a bit about Bella is that they're basically Ellie was more innocent. That's exactly. So that
the dropping of the F-bombs trying to make her like a badass too quickly, just kind of like it should have been something where she was an innocent character and it built up to that.
Right.
But like this whole tough guy act, right? I didn't like it.
Totally not on her. That's on the director.
I know, and that's what I didn't like about it. And
we'll let it slide in.
But I think I'm hoping where this was the pilot, they'll kind of tone her down a little bit. And they might.
So I think we'll end it there, guys. We've been 1 hour and 37 minutes. It's been fun. We will be back next Friday night, right? You're going to join me again?
Yeah, and then
we kind of live together, so you're stuck with me.
Yeah, I think maybe we should do The Walking Dead.
If we do, it'll just be the first season.
First 2 seasons.
We'll see. Yeah,
and maybe what were you saying earlier? Jericho?
Jericho, yes. We would love to do Jericho. Anybody out there who's seen it, if you haven't, start watching it for sure. So, Dark City. I know we were closing up here, but Darkwing said another nerd reference I know you'd get, Tim. Had COVID last year, and when I got out of the hospital, I sounded like Keith Sutherland's character in Dark City. I just listened to a review on that one today. I love Dark City.
Oh, I hate Dark City.
I know you do. But
I hate Dark City. So. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I don't like Dark City at all.
But we'll be back, guys. And make From. We might have to check out From, right? So we tried with Revolution. I didn't love Revolution, but that's neither here nor there. So, guys, thank you. This was fun. We had a bigger crew than I thought for an experimental show. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, and we will be back. Well, I'm back tomorrow night. I have Val, who has hiked the Appalachian Trail with a service dog and had a lot of fun. She's coming on to chat with me. It's going to be a great interview. And then I have Ryan Buford on Sunday night from the Next Generation podcast talking about alternative fuel sources. So it's
And
going
I
to be a
get
good
control
weekend.
of the whole living room. I
Yeah.
get to watch what I want to watch.
She gets to watch and then fill me in on what she watched. So, and she gets to keep the dogs from barking while we're doing it. So, all right, guys, thank you very much this evening. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.